welcome to Plat Valorant episode 63. I remember the episode number, even though I was told literally 20 seconds ago.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well
some changes to this episode. We've made some adjustments. These will be permanent moving forwards.
We finally got rid of Josh.
Got rid of Josh and
It only
Avast.
took 63 episodes. Oh, Avast is here?
Well,
I'm leaving.
Thankfully, Avast is not here.
I don't have to... Wait, I can come back. The viewers have returned. We're going to reach astronomical new heights of impressions and view counts now that Avast has finally been kicked.
Analogies to explain simple concepts. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I mean, it's the same, this usual faces, with the exception of me. I'm back for now.
Brenny in the hosting chair.
Yep, in the hosting chair. Josh was up until 3 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out his travel situation for EMEA LCQ because, listen, I'm not going to divulge his secrets, but let's just say he's a bit of a moron. And his travel situation is fucked. So he's figuring out anything: boat, train, bus, couch. I don't know how he's getting there.
Cycling.
Yep, cycling. He actually did.
Gonna get a Lime scooter.
Yeah, he thought about cycling. I'm pretty sure he considered it.
Yeah.
We looked it up.
Yeah, it's like a 116-hour by bike trip to show up as fucking.
I'm pretty sure the reason is
unreal.
The reason has been told on this podcast before. So I'm pretty sure, but I don't know because I don't know the personal details either. So
yeah, I mean,
but anyhow, so it's a busy week. We're getting ready for LCQ. There's been a lot of stuff going on. You guys we had the big hose stream. You had the Owl Finals. We did the Tip of the Hats charity stream this weekend, and now we're just going to LCQ.
Straight into
a lot of stuff happening, so it's been a bit chaotic getting everything organized.
And before that, we have topics. Discuss.
Okay.
Various topics, actually.
Oh, wow.
Various topics within the Valorant community. Yeah,
on the podcast?
Some hot topics. I don't know.
On the docket?
When the hell did this news drop? But the first one is just Envy reverting back to old esports. They dropped the ball. This is your title you cooked up, Balla. They reverted to standard definition.
Yeah, it was just... It was a couple days ago. Mike just posted that he's still looking for a team to sign him.
Dude, absolutely fucking ridiculous, by the way.
Yeah.
That's even a circumstance in this day and age. Like, that is actually some shit that you'd expect to hear about in 2013.
Yeah. I mean, he had been working with Envy for a few months at this point, throughout all of their qualifying process, etc. And yeah, they never got him a contract, and now he's just looking for another team. I mean, look, I guess as absurd as that is, I mean, I'm sure another team will pick up Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, he begins working with Envy, and they make it to second place at Berlin. And then he's not signed. That's a pretty good coaching prospect. And also just, there's a lot to be said about how dedicated he was in regards to helping Envy and how much work he was doing, how many late night VOD reviews. He was just 20-hour bender of taking notes. Yeah, I mean, he was working his ass off. So that's, he's going to get picked up by another team.
Yep. He's one of the few guys we have like personal experience knowing how he coaches. So yeah, he should get picked up. It is an embarrassment that Envy lost on this matter because like how after they get second, they're not just like instantly, hey, Mike's, here's some fucking money, bro. Let's go for it. Like you want, like, what do you want? Pretty much after Berlin. But I guess they just don't care about FPS games or something.
I think Envy is just mad misorganized when it comes to like internally the business side of things as well. Everything that I've been hearing about just how that company is ran as an org, and they've made this transition period between obviously like a lot of the old esports running and making decisions, which is where you'd think that would come from, and they've got these new people in the positions, but they haven't got rid of like the the disorganization aspect of where they've been transitioning into like an actual, I guess, quote unquote business. But just disappointing, honestly. And like you said, I think Mike will be picked up pretty quickly. It sounds like he's quite positive. I was on his stream. I was watching his stream the other day. I gave him a little raid, and he was just toiling away in the prison of ranked. Him and Space Duo queuing, trying to get immortal. And he seemed relatively, I'm not going to say upbeat, but he had his head, he had his chin up about the situation.
Can you ever tell
he
with him?
should. His stocks are at an all-time high.
Envy went to the finals.
Yeah. He'll be
I
fine.
respect the shit out of him, by the way, going out here and saying, hey, like, I didn't have a contract, so like I'm not gonna do it anymore, right? Because other people would just be toiling away doing all the shit you guys are talking about and just not be contracted for the longest time. And yeah, Hastro had some stuff to say. He basically like said, oh, it was delayed a little bit, but we were working on getting him a contract. And it's like, really? Like what?
This was so silly, actually. Like, unsure if the team needed a head coach, an analyst, or a combination of the two positions. In the process of drafting up a contract to present to him. Well, where was it? If he was waiting 3 months, where was the communication? Like, where was the? You can't just drag him along for that long. Any individual who's working for you, that's just absurd.
Mm-hmm.
It's just absolutely absurd.
And it's super scummy to me that like, oh, he's working for us, by the way, and he doesn't have a title. And oh, now you're an analyst. You're not even the head coach. You're an analyst for a guy like Mike's. I don't know. That makes no sense to me. Seems like they were gonna lowball him. I don't know what the details are, but analyst for head coaching role pretty much just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I do think as well, though, this wasn't malicious in nature by Envy. I just think it was just complete. I mean, what's the word for it? Just being dog shit at your jobs. Yeah, incompetence. Yeah. Like it
well,
sounds
at a certain
like
point it does become malicious though if you're incompetent, right? Like.
Yeah, but yeah, when I say that, I don't mean like it wasn't intentional. Where they would, it's not like Envy are hurting for money, where they needed to string Mike along to get the most work out of him without paying him. They absolutely have the money to pay him. It just seems like this came from a positioning of, again, incompetence, just not being able to manage it. Anyway, I mean, yeah, best of luck to Mike. I think he'll be fine, and he'll be hopefully joining another team soon. I don't really know. I don't have any details. Do you? Do you want to leak it?
No. No details.
Wait, do you want to? No, okay.
Yeah, well, we don't know the details, but I mean, we could leak it on the show.
I thought you were saying no. I don't want to leak it.
Leak it for the clout, maybe. Just steal his thunder.
No.
Let's talk about the next topic on the list. Unless. And talk about Fracture, actually, because they did an announcement. Because the timing of this typically would meant that Fracture, with it being released, I think it would have just about squeaked into LCQ normally, right? If you go by the prior time.
By a long shot, actually, like by a month or so.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. Well, they ended up saying that Fracture won't be being played for LCQ, which I don't know if it. In terms of it being the right call, I actually really, really like Fracture as a map. I think it's. I don't know. I really like it in terms of the design of the sites and the quote-unquote gimmick of it doesn't really feel like it detracts away from the map, which I thought it might. It's just on the play. But in terms of how it's played in pro play, at the end of the day, I think you only would have seen probably worse games, I would say.
Yeah.
If teams don't have time to put the effort in to learn a map and actually get good at it, you'll end up with like a situation where we're at right now with Breeze, I feel. Whenever I watch Breeze or teams on Breeze, I'm like, take it with a big grain of salt. Because the strategy just boils down to very simple stuff.
Yeah, I'm okay with it being removed even for this tournament, even though it met the time requirement, just because it is quite a different map. It's going to take more time for teams to be good on it or understand how to play it to a more competent level that's even entertaining or worthwhile, I think, for viewers. Anyhow, so I'm okay with it being removed for those reasons for now, and not affecting who makes champions. I'm fine with that. And then seeing it later for champions when teams are more competent and well trained on the map, and the strategy of it, or the comps that are viable on it are more developed through more practice time, I'm all good with that.
I feel both ways, right? Where I'm comfortable because in my mind it looks like community sentiment and the pro player sentiment was heavily against playing Fracture at LCQ, but to me I don't think it makes much sense. I don't think it matters what the quality of the map is. Well, I'd be speaking differently if the map was absolute dog shit. But I don't think that matters at all. I think we should have been rushing to get towards the 7-map pool, and be between that, we should have been not doing the 6-map pool bullshit. Because I think the reason why Breeze looks like ass tactically right now, Bren, is because it was in this weird limbo where sometimes it was played, but most of the time it wasn't, because we don't actually have a proper veto system right now. Where the upper seed gets the extra ban half the time. And I really don't like it because it leads to this weird situation in grand finals where we're going to play a best of 5 with 6-map pool. And the way that they did it in Berlin was absolutely awful. It didn't make a difference, but Envy got to basically ban their permaban and force Gambit to play their permaban, which was just crazy. It was a random decision. I think it was a coin flip or something like that. And if they do that again, people are going to be salty about, especially if it matters, people are going to be salty that we don't have Fracture. And the other thing too is if you go to a 7-map pool, you get an extra ban. So if you're not ready for Fracture, just ban it for the time being, So it's not even necessarily a thing where teams will end up in a bad situation because Fracture is there because they didn't have enough time. Number one, there's been fucking 3 weeks. What is it going to be, 4 weeks since Berlin? That's a lot of time. And then number 2, you can just ban it if you don't want to play it. Simple as. Because you have 2 bans now in a best of 3 process.
That's all very fair. This guy's spitting.
Balla, you have actually sold me on
the
idea of at least the concept of Breeze being kind of poopy to watch tactically, off the back of just the teams not really getting opportunities to play. I mean, when you put it in the pool, you force teams to actually play it and learn some basic element of it. It's a bit like it's like you're ripping off the Band-Aid. It's better to do it earlier, get it over with.
You got to do it in official matches.
Exactly. You put it in there and you actually force teams to learn a little bit more. But I don't know what. Speaking about the pick and bans for the finals, what is an alternative that they could do for that? Because who do you decide who gets the advantage in the finals? Is there a good way?
It becomes random, right?
Yeah. Is there a good way to do it?
I mean, it's
always random, but the thing is,
bracket. You could. It could be the upper bracket team. That could be their upper bracket advantage.
The way that I was envisioning doing it would be, yes, it's random. Somebody gets an advantage for sure because obviously somebody's going to play their non permaban, or they're going to have to play their permaban eventually. But leave it to the picks, right? So leave it to when they want that to happen, or at least let both teams pick both of the opposing permabans, So in the Gambit Envy situation, it would have been, what was it? What was Envy's permaban? I forgot. Oh, it was Breeze. So it would have been Gambit picking Breeze and then Envy picking Haven. And at least then you have the 1-to-1 balance. And then a random map out of their pool gets left out rather than.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or just have a 7 fucking map pool.
Or just have had a 5-map pool where Icebox got removed because it's not good.
Dude,
that still would have been so
Agreed.
good. That would have been so good.
Just put a box in the side.
I'm telling you, nope. Zip line from B main into top B. More zip lines. I'm telling you, crack the site open.
I'd like to see them go a bit crazy with the map design in Icebox. What were you going to say, Balla?
I was going to say one more thing about Fracture not being at LCQ. To me, it bums me out that the first time we're going to see Fracture in pro play, like a high level pro play, tier 1 pro play, it's going to be champions.
Yeah,
that more than anything detracts from this decision.
It's gonna add some. It's definitely going to add some upset potential, I think, as well. When certain maps, the more maps you add in, the more that something can slip into a series. and you might see upsets happen. Anyway,
God, you know what they should do with Icebox? They should do something with the storyline, like a Fortnite kind of in-game event where something happens on Icebox B in the story, like Phoenix and the other Phoenix, or like Brimstone and the other Brimstone are fighting, and they both use their ults, and it just blows up the B site, and then the site is different. You know what I mean? You know, genuinely, and you can like watch. There's a video about it or something.
It just happens in a pro match of Icebox,
and then no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
The pros are playing, and the event happens, and suddenly the site changes. Everyone has to adapt.
I mean,
like
that
typical
would be
Fortnite fashion.
That would be really funny as an in-game event. One time, like you could play, everyone could queue for Icebox
to drop a mech in the corner as well.
Yeah, and then something happens on the B site, or there's just a lore video before an update.
Yeah,
that shows them battling on Icebox, and then the B site is different. You know what I mean?
I think that would be quite cool.
I think that would be cool.
I think that
Listen,
would be.
Yep.
I quite like that.
Feel free to use that one. Free of charge.
Pulls fucking Icebox 2 from World 2, Earth 2, or whatever. Just comes through the rift.
Yeah.
There's a butterfly somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's the future of gaming.
Yep.
I don't know if they have the technology yet for it.
I think they they do.
Oh, that's why Deathmatch is taking forever to update. They're working on the fucking event structure.
Yes, yeah. Trying to get a live concert with Ariana Grande in Icebox as well, alongside it.
I'd be queued up for that. Okay. What else?
The next topic that we've got is talking about game changers.
Ariana to step on you.
Game changers. Cloud9 White going 3 times game changers champs. I didn't end up watching game changers because I was prepping for EMEA LCQ. But I heard very good things about it in terms of the production, how it's been scaled up. In general, I am a huge fan of Riot's commitment to building up and developing the women's scene in that sort of just corner, because I think it's a good way to get into it. You know, you got to ease into it if the eventual goal is, cooperative tournaments where women don't feel either intimidated or excluded from the main tournaments. Not excluded in the sense that, not allowed to play, but more that they're comfortable to play in the tournaments. You know, to get to that point in the first place, I think they've been doing an excellent job of it. It's they've just been putting money, resources into it. They've been developing it, setting it up, and it's on a pretty good track, honestly, all things considered.
Yeah, definitely. Were you able to, or do you have some more specific things you want to talk about, Balla? Because unfortunately, I was not able to watch this one because we were doing the charity stream this week.
I mean, there's a few things to say about Cloud9 White. Basically, and a couple of the other teams too. Cloud9 White looks to be improving every single tournament. Like, it feels like every international event or every like big other event, they're just stealing a shit ton of stuff from that, and then they're also getting better fundamentally. So this was a cakewalk for them, even more so than the last one. And Wyatt, when we talked about the last one with them, we watched that one and it was a stomp all the way through. This one was also fairly stompy. They lost another map against Shopify in the finals. I think it was Haven after they were up 2-0 already.
Yeah.
But then they came back and stomped them on bind anyways. So Shopify is still the only team who can challenge them whatsoever. CLG Red just didn't play as well. I think they had a couple of substitutions or different rosters, so it wasn't the same. They didn't put up a fight, and Cloud9 just looked better. Just better.
Yeah. No, I'm a huge fan of it. Like, it's just incredibly important, and Riot seem to be one of the only developers with a firm understanding of just how to run a video game alongside the esports so that they can not just coexist with one another, but they amplify each other, but also they're thinking about the development of the scene even further than that, to get rid of some of the toxic elements that exist in esports, of just how essentially toxic it can be for a lot of people, a lot of minorities as well who are trying to get into gaming and esports and that side of things. It's pretty heads up from them. And there's go ahead. Yeah.
I think that, like, at this point, I am getting a little bored with game changers.
Yeah.
In terms of the actual tournament, like, obviously it's a great initiative and whatnot, but It's not. It still feels a little bit same old, same old. Maybe not so much because the not only money on the line, but also the amount of participation they have. So it's definitely different. But it doesn't feel like there's anything like what is Cloud9 White playing here for? Right? There's no actual incentive for playing in this tournament other than to be the best women's team.
Yeah.
Which has been done in the past, right? In CS, that was already the thing. I would like there to be some path here for them to get into VCT to make it a little bit more interesting. Because at this point, this like they're gonna win the next one too, probably. Like nobody looks to be even close to them.
Yeah, I think the eventual goal though is like with these things, they do take a lot of time in terms of the development of the scene. And if they are the dominant team for the longest time, it is eventually going to raise the skill level of everyone else involved around them in that scene, and who is also developing. But I agree with you. I don't really know what their plans are for it in terms of how to integrate outside of the scene into like the general VCT, and getting that cross into competition as well. I think that's been people's criticisms of it in general, but I think I don't know. I have the mindset that you need to show a bit of patience with it and wait for it to develop a little bit. These things take time.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Especially, just given that, these initiatives are starting so much. Obviously, so much later into esports than just standard tournaments that have been going. So have to more time to catch up. It's just the unfortunate reality. But
yeah,
that's why these initiatives are important. But yeah, maybe there will be further integration in 2022, or even shit like an international game changers type thing would be cool.
That would be quite cool.
So
yeah. Continuing with the game changers topics as well, the next one we've got is to talk about the game changers EU. This is news to me as I'm reading this, but they changed to mixed teams after the inaugural tournament. I'm ignorant as to like the reasoning behind this, or what was going on with this.
I don't think there was any reasoning posted really. I mean, obviously the goal of game changers is eventually to have like some mixed teams, but I was under the impression that'd be kind of natural. And Game Changers EU just started. Like this is the first one that they run. They hyped it up like crazy.
Yeah.
And then they just flip the switch like that and make it so that it has to be 3 women and 2 like it doesn't. I see the goal, but it doesn't sit right with me because number 1, this is the first time, and number 2, I don't think that this is like you guys are saying. We have to wait a little longer. I don't think like trying to force it actually helps at all.
Is this? I'm like I said, I am completely ignorant of the process. But is it related to like the certain countries in EU having like incredibly conservative laws when it comes to like running competitions? Like I'm thinking of places in like UAE, you know, or just the Middle East in general, where presumably they're playing in the EU Game Changers, right? Or is it separate?
Do we know? That's a question I cannot answer.
I mean, yeah, probably, but I would highly doubt it. It would be so weird to me to like change stuff for that, right? For game changers, that would be so weird.
Yeah, I don't know the exact reasoning. I mean, that's what I mean. I probably shouldn't be talking about it if I don't. I'm just kind of spitballing rumors and coming up with random stuff. But
maybe they just want to get, I don't know, maybe they were trying to get more signups.
Yeah,
as well. Maybe
that's another thing. They could also just be trying to get more signups. But yeah, it's like we were saying earlier. It takes time with this. It's I don't know, bit of a weird change. But
I think if you change like to mixed teams, you're gonna take away from the actual community playing in that event. You're gonna have a bunch of people just like hopping in for one-off teams, right? Just scrimming for the tournament and then go back to the same old teams that you're always. So then it's going to decrease the quality.
It does seem a little bit counterproductive, doesn't it?
Yep.
It does seem a little bit counterproductive. And that's why I'm trying to think of any reasoning that they would have for it, but I don't know. I can only think of some legal stuff getting into the background where they are trying to run it in as many countries as possible, but getting in the way of stuff. But again, I don't know. I'd have to do more research onto it as well. Yeah, not too sure. Let's move on to the initial bracket again, revealing this is for LCQ, the LAN single elim play-ins. That was the initial reveal for NA LCQ. Was this the case in the other regions as well with EU? I don't think so, right? No, EU was double elim when I was looking at it last night.
The NA is the only one that did the sort of double elim.
Is really weird. It's like, I don't know. It's strange to have the single elim. It kind of reminds me of when I used to watch TI way back in the day, and they used to have just the first round of matches being single elimination. Yeah. And it's like some of the most important as well. You're having like different, I mean, it's not to the same degree, but in TI, you got the differences of like almost millions of dollars between one round of matches to the next. With this, the stakes are, I mean, you can argue in terms of like for a lot of these players' careers, almost as high. It's literally just the opportunity to compete at Champions, which is going to make or break your career in a lot of likelihoods. But this was the initial bracket here. Obviously, now the Oceanic teams are not going to be participating. We're going to talk about that later. And so it would make sense that the bracket would be adjusted. But basically, they would have had it so that up until the upper semifinals, it was single elimination. And then from that point on, it was double elim.
Yeah. Which is not really good.
No, it's not.
Especially when you consider
I don't think it's a good format.
I mean, had the Australian teams been able to go... I mean, this is the point that's been raised just a million times, but it's pretty accurate that it's just if the Australian teams were... if their travel was secured and they were going, they would have been quarantined for a couple weeks and then, like... the nightmare travel scenario anyway of how time-consuming it is to go from Australia to NA and then the quarantine and all that, and then they just play one BO3 against XSET and are going home. It's just not ideal. Not ideal. So that wouldn't have been good. Needs a double elim bracket. And I think that all of these LAN events, they should just be double elim anyway. I mean, why as a player, it's just shit if you have to play one series. You go through all of the trials and tribulations to get there, and then also just all the travel and all that stuff associated, which is it's exhausting. And then you just play one BO3, and you are out, and that's it. I think and it's just. It would just be so disappointing. Yeah,
even thinking outside of just how bad it is for the players themselves playing the single elims, I think it's also counterproductive for the development of the scene. Because there's a lot of these players, I think this will be their first opportunity playing on LAN in VALORANT.
For a lot of these NA
and just
teams,
giving them experience playing at LAN is vitally important, I think, again, for the development of the scene. You don't want the more games, the more reps you give a lot of these teams, the better they're going to look eventually when they do get to more LAN tournaments and play, and they'll have the experience under their belts. It's only going to help with the development of raising the scene in terms of like the skill floor.
Yeah.
Bro, I'd be fine with them fucking skimping like crazy on like production costs, stage costs, any of that shit, and just have them in like a fucking LAN center. You know, I'd be so much happier to and just extend the schedule, play as many fucking games as possible, because it's just better to play on LAN and it's better to have a good format rather than just be forced to the whims of the schedule of when they want to place the LCQ and when it fits. I don't know. It just makes
all the players in one of those Walmart esports arenas. Just save some money. Just have them play.
I do wonder.
Triple elims bracket.
Where was the limitation for them not having double elimination in the first place? Is it that the event has to run for a certain amount of time and they didn't want to?
Right?
I think so. Yeah, I wonder as well. I don't really know what the current laws are like looking with the rules and regulations in like LA where this is being held in terms of running a broadcast as well, if that affects it. There's a lot of weird stuff that changes on a weekly basis with COVID that prevents how you run events, or not running events, but necessarily running a broadcast as well is the most important thing, because you've got to think of like the crew and everything else coming in. I think there are ways to work around it. If you have enough money, there's ways to work around everything. But it feels a bit counterproductive that we're discussing this. Because the Oceanic teams, they can't even make it anyway, which we're going to be moving on to now to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad for the oceanic scene. It's kind of tragic. I mean, it's not even kind of tragic.
It has been
just
mismanaged.
Tragic.
It's been mismanaged.
They've just been left out, and then they got their kind of VCT year to qualify for this, and they're not even able to go. And this was all they were playing for all year, was to go to the last chance qualifier in, I'll say it, in the best Valorant region. So it was going to be tough for them to make it through anyway, because they just get thrown in against still a lot of the best NA teams and best teams in the. I mean, 100 Thieves. You know what I mean? It's just such a slim chance they're going to be able to make it anyway. It would just be far more from my perspective. It would be far more interesting had there been some more integrated qualifying opportunity throughout the year that involved probably playing in the APAC region, or playing against, because I think the games with those teams from the bits I've watched, I think there would be far closer and more interesting games had they been playing playing in tournaments more regularly, or if there are availabilities for LAN tournaments in 2022 against like Crazy Raccoon and that tier of team, and like Paper X and Secret and Bren Esports and like Damwon and like if they're playing against that tier of teams, I think there's more interesting games, and hopefully as there's an ability to have more LANs in 2022 or just in the future, that's more of a realistic possibility, because it wouldn't be that interesting to watch them come to NA. And depending on how the bracket played out, and if maybe they could have some close games against some of the lower tier of the 8 teams that are there from NA, but like in that bracket where they're just going up against X set immediately, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be especially worthwhile. It's not going to be. This is not going to be worth their year of trying to qualify for this, rather than like playing consistent events against some of the qualifying Asian teams. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's kind of. I mean, yeah. And Chiefs were playing against Rise, who also almost qualified. They're playing against the next 2 best teams in NA from the previous qualifier.
Yeah.
Like it was not going to be a pretty sight, you know. So it's just unfortunate that the scene was just isolated from the rest of the world this year and kind of unable to develop. And their best team at the time, at least Sonics, they did what they had to do, which was leave and go to NA. But that's
for the development of their own team. Well, what's your takeaway on this one, Balla?
It sucks, and I think from what I'm reading, Riot kind of dropped the ball in terms of like securing this travel, because the whole reason for it, I don't know if you could pull up the statement that they had from the NA Twitter, but the whole reason for it was COVID restrictions. They're not able to secure travel for them, which sometimes does happen, but typically that's like happening like the Bren Esports case, where it's like a day before, 2 days before, where it's like, oh shit, like we just couldn't get it through. This time it feels like it's like like it's too close now, and we just like didn't figure it out, so we're just canceling it. And it definitely feels on Riot's end more than any other, like any of the teams or players or anything like that, which really, really sucks to me. And that's got to feel really bad for the teams, right? Because they have no say in it either.
Yeah.
So, yeah, COVID sucks, but I'm pretty sure there's a team from OC going to Worlds, right, in League. So, like...
Yeah, I'll say this in regards to how difficult it is, because I have family in Australia, and I know what it's been like for them with COVID. They've been essentially in lockdown for a significant portion of the year. They've been pretty slow to get vaccines as well, but they've gone, I mean, Australia in general just essentially locked down the borders. They've made it very difficult for citizens to get back into the country at times and leave. It's quarantining both ways. Flights in and out of the country are nightmares to find. And I say this not to defend Riot and being like, oh, well, they've got an excuse. With enough time, you can solve these issues, and I think they had enough time to solve them. But it's a bit of a pain, I think, for the Oceanic region. As a whole, it has probably felt like for them, they are just isolated on this island. They can't play against the APAC teams online because of ping. That gets in the way of things. So they can't actually get proper competition. In different scenes, I'll use Overwatch as the example because, again, that's where I'm coming from in this direction, in this line of thought. Overwatch is a game where it doesn't really matter if you play on 120 ping. So those teams actually, that scene and region actually does get good competition against some of the better teams in Overwatch, even way back when it was highly competitive. In attack shooter, ping matters way more. You can't play on 120 ping. It's just not possible. You're not going to get good practice really, in the slightest. But they are very isolated within playing in that one region, just because of the internet infrastructure. Should they have maybe incorporated the Oceanic region into APAC? Maybe, but I think they would have ran into the same technical hurdles or the same limitations with COVID restrictions, because I think it's coming from the Australian government and the New Zealand government, where they've locked everything down. But again, I think they had enough time for this. They should have been able to work this out. Even if they did end up going, I think they would have just, like you said, it would have not been pretty. Xed and Rise, I think Rise looked really good. Xed looked like one of the favorites off the back of it. Again, we're going to talk about this later when we go over the teams. We don't actually have the proper bracket, but we will talk about it. And yeah, it's disappointing. Honestly, it's disappointing, because as much as we can say, well, they probably wouldn't have had much of a chance anyway to perform.
They could, you never know though, because it is Valorant, and on the day you can just use the not miss strategy. Sometimes you use the not miss strategy, and it's very effective. And there still could have been some close games. They could have had some good showings. There's no way to know. It's just that my wider point with that is, if they had just shown up, and if they were just outclassed by those top NA teams, and that was just the end of their year, the real tragedy is that there was no integration at any point previous. So
this was posted by I think Ducky is a member of the Oceanic community in some way or form. I actually don't know what their role is. Journalist, right? And he was basically talking through the public discord between these teams and what happened. And he said that apparently Riot didn't even look at booking flights until last week. Again, way too last minute for it. Didn't apply for the travel exemptions until a few days ago. Weren't aware of the border policies. If you scroll down, I think he does say as well, issuing a correction to this tweet, have said so on Reddit, Riot are aware of the border policy in Australia, but the team was lacking in immigration experience to get the documentation. That plus the time crunch. So I think he's basically drawing this information from the team's perspective. Riot probably as well. It's easy to conflate them saying they just sent an Oceanic team to Worlds, so they should know about the immigration policies and whatnot. But the way that these companies operate is that they are separate departments that often don't cross that much. They don't really interchange too much, because it will kind of just, if anything, it holds back, honestly, the process most of the time as well. This is why a lot of companies don't do it. I think on the Valorant side of things, with the travel and whatnot, it's a lot of it's outsourced to other companies to try and figure out. So unfortunate all around. And yeah, I don't want to create too many excuses, because I think this was ultimately solvable, and it's a massive shame for the Oceanic region. All I can say is that keep your heads up. Hopefully at certain points, when a significant portion of the Oceanic region is vaccinated and travel borders start to get opened up again. I mean, there's recently the travel corridor between the UK and Europe and America is planning to be opened again in November. So there are moves being made between the countries. Yeah. Hopefully it becomes easier. But as well, just to reiterate how hard it was, even to have LAN events inside the Oceanic region, in between the states of Australia, you could not travel to different states during COVID when they were in lockdown.
Yeah, it's lockdown.
You couldn't travel from one side of Australia to the other at a certain point in time. I think they've loosened up on that for now, but Australia is incredibly strict when it comes to it. If they got a single COVID case in the country, everything was locked down, which makes it very hard to organize any sort of LAN competition, even within the country of Australia, or trying to get New Zealand players in as well.
I hope that now that this has happened, right? They're not at LCQ. I hope that there's some sort of compensation for what's happening, not necessarily monetary, but like maybe we get them an opportunity to do a play-in for champions or something like that. Like some opportunity for them to not have wasted their entire year, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Because that is absurd. That is so absurd. Or even fucking some extra competition for them. Like,
yeah.
Because that just feels so bad.
If it was even possible, I think having like LAN tournaments, just dedicating some portion of budget or a LAN tournament within the region itself, and then some way as well of incorporating in the future so that the teams can play against some of the APAC teams, maybe in LAN tournaments. Like, was it Josh who was like cooking up the concept and idea of having one big APAC tournament in terms of placement points or like the placements to actually go to the international events? They don't actually do that, but I think if they ended up going down that route, it would make sense as well to include Australia, assuming again there's not the restrictions in place. But yeah, kind of
the crappy thing about it is that OCE is like, out of all the minor regions that we consistently are talking about, right? Like OCE is one of the regions that's shown the most prowess in TAC FPS. Right? We always bring up Korea. We're like, oh, they haven't really shown much except back in the day in 1.6, like China, and then we're like, yeah, of course, Brazil. But OCE is legitimately, they always bring a team to the major, and they've made it out of groups in some cases. They've had really, really significant upsets in a lot of different years. It's a travesty that they're not being catered to, because they should hypothetically have been one of the better regions coming into the year of Valorant. But now they've been stunted so hard that I honestly don't even ever see them coming back from it unless there's significant support thrown to them in the future.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that region was always so strong in CS as like tactical FPS history is that they had just good LAN structure, I guess. You know, the competition was always there in terms of playing. They always formed one good team. They always had one team that could compete at LANs as well in terms of the practice they were putting in. But it's the onus now is on Riot as well, moving forwards, to put more resources into it as a region so it doesn't fall to the wayside and you don't lose it. Because it's easy to say when you're launching the game, you want it to be a global game that's reaching every single corner of the esports market. The prospects of that are amazing, just to have an actual TAC FPS where almost every country in the world is sending competitors to play and become the best at. The idea of that is incredible, and you just can't lose sight of the oceanic region just because of these shortcomings. But I fear it might get lost in just the difficulty of it from this year. And like you said, there's a real chance it does affect them long term. Hopefully it doesn't. I think a kind of development in terms of running regular LAN tournaments as well for the region and maybe trying to incorporate it against the other higher level of competition would be ideal for them as well, just so that they don't fall behind even further than the other regions. Yeah.
Just hopefully there's more integration next year. That would be ideal.
I am going to check the Valorant Reddit, and if I don't see a bracket, I'm going to be annoyed, because this next topic is the NA LCQ bracket. I'm praying that something's been announced. It hasn't. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's do EU first. That's a great idea,
we'll start with EU, and we'll hope that it
it might get dropped within like the time here.
If not, we'll just have to be.
I'm turning Noti on for the Valorant Esports NA Twitter. It's on. Let's go.
I am
Noti gang.
For the EU bracket, this isn't going to be a LAN, right? Correct?
No. I don't
it's not going to be a LAN, so that's already a bit of a downside for a lot of these teams. But it does introduce interesting prospects when we actually get around to looking at the bracket, in that certain teams we know for a fact now that are going to be playing in EU LCQ have not performed and turned up at LAN events, but they turn up online. I'm thinking of teams like SMB as a team, just the absolute onliners shredding teams. Probably going to be a competitor now in this EU LCQ. A lot of good teams, actually, that could potentially take this one. I don't really know who the favorites are going to be in this one off the top of my head. You've got like Liquid, SMB, G2 for sure.
Yeah.
Yep, Guild as well. And here's the bracket here as well, as you can see. So it is going to be a double elimination, right? I think, yeah, all the way through.
Yes.
But it's not the same as the NA, which, again, if just to touch on that briefly, if they're doing this as double elimination, it kind of makes me feel like the limiting factor isn't necessarily that they didn't want to do it when they had the Oceanic teams attending, but more so, I think, probably broadcast restrictions in Los Angeles with a LAN event that was causing that problem. But anyway, besides the point, we're talking about EU now.
Who are Anubis Gaming?
They won. What was it they won
Strike
recently?
Arabia.
Vance was telling me.
Strike Arabia. This is the tournament that they had to qualify into this.
Yeah,
and they did the Red Bull. Wasn't this the team
Red
that
Bull
won
Campus
the Red Bull?
Clutch? I think they.
Yeah.
Oh.
They won against a certain team. It was. I can't speak. I haven't watched the game themselves, but when I was doing VOD reviews for NA LCQ yesterday, my chat was telling me they're just kind of there.
Look on the right side there, Kurt. Go back to that. Go back to their team page. Yeah, look on the right side. Red Bull Campus Clutch first World Finals, like 3. Yeah, there it is.
There you go. So yeah, but I think the teams they're playing against, they just about squeaked out a win. I think is Project S. They're a collegiate team, I think.
Yeah, these are all collegiate teams.
Yeah.
So this Anubis Gaming team is like based out of that. This is the team that Shalaby came from, who got signed to Vitality for like 1 day or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Did that say they win the tournament and they get spectator tickets to Masters Berlin?
Say that, yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, for winning the tournament, they got to go to Masters Berlin and spectate. It says that next to the prize money on that tournament. Go there and get some selfies. You know what I mean?
I didn't see this. No, I didn't.
Get Chronicle to sign your mouse pad.
Hold on. Wait,
go back to the page, the Red Bull Campus
The Red Bull
Clutch page.
Campus Clutch. Yeah.
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 All right. Yeah, hell yeah. Get to watch.
Nice.
I mean, listen, why not? A bit of prize money on top of it as well. Nothing hurts.
They did not come. There's no chance that they came.
I don't think they did. I don't think they did with the cover regulations. But
anyway, do you want to pull the regular bracket?
Pull up the bracket. We can talk through this.
I haven't had a chance to look at this bracket yet, so I was Anubis Gaming. Cool.
Anubis.
All right.
Unfortunately, they go up against G2.
Yeah, that's probably. I'm going to assume G2 will be winning that game.
G2 have been looking unreal, I think, especially coming off the back of Berlin. They really impressed me by how much they developed. I think it helped a lot that they played more matches in the round robin. They got to play good competitive matches against, F4Q as much as they were a weaker team. Sentinels, playing against Sentinels multiple times, absolutely would have helped them develop as well as a team over the course of that. They came alive. I am really looking forward to the trajectory of this team moving forwards.
Yeah. I'm interested in seeing where they're at after that because it was such a step up to me, especially in the individual with Kellogg's. I'm just interested to see how they and if they are able to maintain what they were doing online again. I mean for Footballist and Oxygen, I mean I don't know who is even the favorite at this point. I'm going to be honest.
When I looked
I don't even know who's the favorite for that.
The general consensus has been that there has been a bit of they've kind of fallen off a little bit, I suppose, in the general scene, whereas you've got like SMB has developed themselves as the prime team and talent within that region of Turkey, and now you've kind of got these two teams that are just scraping beneath them, but not quite coming close. Again, I don't know who the favorites are as well, but I don't know if you can add some more depth to our very surface level comments.
Oxygen has beaten Footballist the last 2 times they played. I think it was both in the regional tournaments, and it wasn't like it was 2-0s and 3-0s. So I expect, and Oxygen has been better when it comes to these online like playoff scenarios.
Yeah,
they just have been, right? They made it to quarters in the first time around, and I think what was it? I forgot. I don't even. The last time they played in the playoffs, Yeah, they got kind of stomped, but they didn't make it through Giants at first, which is interesting in hindsight because the Giants played so well.
Yeah.
But yeah, they went up against G2, lost 2-0, and then lost 2-0 to Liquid, who they also lost in the first go around. So I don't expect greatness from them, but I think we expect them to beat Footballists for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the general expectation.
I believe in what you're saying. I will go with Oxygen. As I have I have just surface level commentary on that match.
You're such a big fan of the EMEA region.
Yeah,
this is shocking to me.
My depth of Turkish Valorant knowledge is just not.
Footballists has made a lot of changes recently with their team in terms of like, yeah, they've had some big additions. I say big additions. They've made their roster is, I think, huge.
This roster?
Their roster is massive. If you go onto the team page of Footballists, Kurt, just real quick, just because we're touching on it, look at the amount of players they've got on their roster. I think they just added 5 players to the team. So who knows? Maybe within the chaos of this internal system, they are going to figure out the real super team.
They just have a different team for every map.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, they've added a coach and 4 new players in between that as well. Yeah. So they have made big changes, but they haven't removed everyone yet. They're probably in the process of figuring it out, but Lord knows what this means for the overall. I mean, yeah, don't expect any quality analysis from me on this one. I think it's just, this is, who knows. Anyway,
Oxygen probably the favorites. The loophole? Mm-hmm. They're trying to fucking keep the spot, but have a complete new roster. So they just fucking put everybody in Vision Strikers Purgatory with fucking Lakia. They just like lock them up. They just got a whole new team in LCQ.
God, that is crazy.
Meanwhile, the CIS teams are fighting for their lives to be in this tournament at all.
Yeah, actually tragic. This next one though, I will be still going with SMB.
It's interesting, isn't it?
I just don't. I don't think it's that interesting.
You think just what the choke of Guild?
It's not even the choke of Guild. I think SMB are a better team than Guild. I don't listen. I think there's a world where Guild win this game through normal Guild fashion of they'll come in with a really good game plan, but it'll be pretty formulaic. And I think that when SMB return to the online comfort, I think they're going to be in a better form. I still think their individual player quality is really high, and I think that it's better than Guild overall. I have a lot of confidence in SMB beating Guild. I just don't think Guild are just they're a hard gatekeeper team in the region. I just don't see.
They have been for a while.
I don't see this current iteration of the roster, which has been the iteration of the roster for a long time. I just don't think that they have. I think that they've just kind of capped, and I think that the way they approach the game, while cool at times, is just far too formulaic and readable for the opposing teams. And I think that SMB are the type of team that can just bang them out. With the fragging, I just don't see Guild able to win unless Guild are, if they're gonna stick to using these like heavy flash comps and playing a lot of breach, unless they are able to like really pick apart some of the SMB aggression with just good counter flashes and overwhelming utility, where SMB aren't actually able to take clean fights against them. Like if Guild have really well done overwhelming util to clear areas of the map and to do the site hits, that's a way that they could win. And that's not an unreasonable thing to ask of Guild, especially with the comps that they like to play. I just think that the player quality and the fragging ability on SMB is it's a tier above when you look at the overall 5. So,
Balla, do you think that there's a risk that coming off the back of the kind of poor performance of SMB out of Berlin, they're just going to carry that forwards into the LCQ?
Yeah, it could be. Because I think one of their problems was straight up just like unconfidence and not like feeling comfortable. That can sometimes carry back over to your home environment, but I don't expect it to. There is a risk though, right? In terms of the actual like matchup here, I think that mostly what Wyatt's saying is right. I think that the skill diff is higher for SMB. If it was only a slight gap, I might say actually I favor, like, not favor, but I think the guild has a chance. But I think like the gate is just open. SMB is far and away better. And guild will have to be gatekeeping in the lower bracket. I don't see any, like, the last time they played, they were struggling to catch up, which I don't know how you're struggling to catch up to a Jett meta this late, right? When you're fucking moving your Sentinel player, your Cypher and Killjoy player, to Jett for certain maps, you know you're in trouble. You know you're in trouble.
Yeah, they definitely fell way behind in regard to the meta. That is very true. Yeah, I don't see them winning this. I think that there is the win con. I think what I said previously is a realistic win condition for them, but I don't think that it's particularly likely at all.
I think they need to straight up change a lot. Like, they need to come into this looking completely new, and if that is the case, maybe there's a shot. But like, completely new roles, stop with the breach stuff, not working. Those types of sweeping changes to how they are approaching the matches, and it could go fine. And that's something that obviously we can't really comment on because we haven't seen it. But I think that's what it's going to take. If they come in very standard, I expect this to be a stomp.
Yeah. The last time we saw Guild, I think, was August the 18th. I think.
Has it been that long? Yeah, playoffs, right?
It's been a while. Yeah, it has been a while, and I'm still holding out a little bit of hope for this team, just off the back of SMB not looking as clean at Berlin. I think the most common reality that we live in here is that SMB just go back to their online form and just start tearing them up. Which
I think even if their form is somewhere between their online run and Berlin, they're still massive favorites.
I honestly think in the last game of Berlin for them, they looked pretty good. Like, they lost to Ascend, sure, but they took a map off of them.
Yeah.
And they looked pretty decent. It felt like they were starting to get back to that form. Brave was turning up. I think the one thing was Izzy never showed up the entire tournament. That win over Ascend in terms of one map relied on Brave and Para, and not the player that you would expected it to be, which is their Jett player, Izzy.
Their coach, the Tanzik, how you pronounce it?
Tania.
Yeah. Their coach said to Josh in one of the interviews we did for Berlin, right, that their team just tilt easily, or like they get into a difficult headspace in the matches and find it difficult to battle out of that with SMB. I think that was very evident after. It was a very candid interview that he said. I'm kind of like paraphrasing it, but the general gist was that SMB they get into a bad headspace when they start the game, and they struggle to battle back when things don't go quite right. I think the reality is that they've probably been working on these issues. You got to expect all of these teams to be making massive improvements from now until this point here. And there's no better way to work on what you're bad at than literally playing at an international tournament against other teams. So yeah, still expect SMB. I just wanted to throw in the possibility of Guild possibly doing it. Team Liquid versus One Breath as the next match here. I think Team Liquid probably going to be going all the way. Team Liquid are a bit of a strange team where they've had some ups and downs over the course of it, but I don't know. I've always wanted them to meet their potential, and be that real top contender. And they've looked it at times, but this is their last opportunity for this year.
Yeah, I have so much faith in Liquid.
Why?
What?
You do?
What?
Why do you have faith in Liquid this tournament?
I really do, because they were so close to being at Berlin.
Yeah,
so
they
close.
were actually. Yeah,
and the thing is, though, they were so close, and a lot of it was from the Liquid magic. But the Liquid magic, they don't really run out of it. It's just that they would have needed so much magic to have beaten Gambit. It was too much magic. The supplies were running low, and they had to refill. But I do find that Liquid just have this intangible quality where they are simply able to pull out clutch rounds when needed. Whenever they're looking shaky, I think they still have the ability to find form within that individually and turn up. And just effectively, the players are good in these clutch scenarios, retake scenarios, at playing off of each other, getting crucial kills, trading for each other effectively in those spots. And I have a lot of faith in that and the individual. And I also think that given how close they were, they only needed a little bit more to cross the finish line. And they could have beaten Gambit. They could have been at Berlin. And I am kind of, obviously, there is some risk involved in my Liquid investment for making it through this tournament because I've never seen Nevera play Valorant before. Yeah. So that is where the risk factor in Liquid belief comes in. But I think that for them to get over that line and hit that next level, because they're so damn close, I think they just need a little bit more out of one role. And if Nevera brings just a little bit more fragging to the table than Cryptix was on his role, a little bit more individual impact on some of these rounds, that might be all they need. I mean, I think that they're right there, and that could take them over the edge, because I think they're right on it. They just need a little push. And obviously, it's going to be, his first tournament, first time playing matches, so it could just be a situation where he needs more time and he's not good enough yet, and it doesn't really work out in that way. Very possible. Yeah. But for me, I think they're so close that they just need the lightest breeze to push them over the finish line, that he could very well be that, even in like not in a fully formed state where he's still trying to level up and train. You know what I mean? So, but I do have belief that this could be it for them. I think it's a very possible outcome that this pushes them just over the edge, and it takes their form up a significant enough level that they're more consistently going to just be able to close out these games because he's providing more fragging than Cryptix was.
It's a shame our resident EU simp isn't here to I don't know. Either add fuel to the fire that you might be dishing out.
No,
right
he would not be.
He wouldn't be. I know Josh.
No,
he was
a
not a fan
You've
of
never seen
Liquid.
Nevera play before.
Yeah.
So I know.
He's more of a realist, but I would be curious. Interesting storyline with that first match though. One Breath Gaming? They were known as Forza, right? They were knocked out by Liquid in the most recent Challengers playoffs. So this is a rematch coming straight off the back of it. The first official match that both of these teams are playing is a go again at this. Now, obviously, they don't get knocked out in this because it's an upper bracket match. But interesting narratives, I think, tying into that first match. But again, Liquid.
Yeah. I am worried also about Liquid deciding to do the Liquid thing and trying to reinvent the meta before a tournament, and then they're just into the lower bracket immediately because they're running like KO Breach
annoys
Phoenix
me so
and
much.
Then they're just that would tilt me, and hopefully we don't see that, because boy, when they play duelists and get kills, damn, that's some good shit. when Scream plays the duelist and gets some kills, that's that good shit right there. I like that a lot. So I hope that they don't try and reinvent themselves too much.
There's no shot that's going to happen. When you're implementing a new player, there's no way you're making new stuff. You're just
say that now.
Probably sticking to the
you say that now, but there's a part of me that's a little scared.
Coach Sliggy or like?
Yeah, I don't know. Some teams do that. It's kind of weird. I was looking at some of the old matches the other day. I mean, it's completely unrelated to this, but I cannot believe some of the shit that was cooked up in the last NA qualifiers. I think Gen.G were running like the KO Cypher Omen.
Oh yeah, but that's hot,
dude. Oh my god! Like, wow.
There was some wild stuff going on.
I mean, it must have had some success of it, but I don't know. That's just crazy.
Yeah, there was some wild
There's
stuff going on.
There's some wild comps that these teams are cooking up.
But yeah, I really do think that I think that if Liquid do stick to essentially what was working for them at the end of that qualifier, the comps that they were running then, just having Scream playing Duelist, Yampy on Jett a lot of the time, running double Duelist, popping off, and then you have Link in the late rounds coming through and doing his thing in the clutch scenario. Like, that I'm all cool with, and then just slot in Nevera for Cryptix, and if he gets just a couple more kills than Cryptix would have on some of these rounds, that could be it.
There is a bit of a honeymoon phase that could happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of betting on, yes.
Yeah.
Though it's harder to have a honeymoon phase when you have a guy playing his first match rather than like slotting in the upcoming prodigy that comes in and is like getting way more, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you underestimate the brother buff, bro. Have you ever played Valorant with your brother?
No, I don't have a brother.
Too strong.
So no, I've only played alone. So I don't know anything about that. That is also cool. Has that ever? Surely that's happened, I guess, and that must have happened in esports some other time.
Yeah, it's Poison Shanks.
Oh yeah.
Poison Shanks is the most obvious example. They always look better when they play together. I think Poison is the only one that can handle Shanks as an individual and personality, it seems.
God, what a match that'll be at Champions. Rise make it. Liquid make it.
Almighty. I mean,
brother match.
We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it.
That's the narrative.
Yeah. It's so we're all in agreement here for Liquid, Balla. I don't know if you want to add on anything more with this opening match.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I am. I don't know much about like how the Forza players are going to fit with the One Breath Gaming players. And this is what I was referring to, by the way. The CIS team's fighting for their lives. Like OBG, One Breath Gaming, like yoinked 3 players from Forza to just steal their spot. Like,
which is so funny, but also just tragic.
So fucking funny.
But all tragic.
We could have had FPX, bro. We could have had FPX. It was so close.
Do you think there's the Balla any chance for this Oxygen Esports upset against G2 in the upper semi?
No.
Okay.
No,
there you have it.
I was actually going to make the case that the G2 Anubis game was going to be slightly closer than I think people expect. And when I say that, I mean like, 6 rounds or something like that compared to what people are probably in their head like, oh, that should be a stomp. But anyways, yeah, no, G2 should just clean up Oxygen. I think the way that Oxygen has lost to the other teams that they've lost to in the past has fit directly into what G2 is going to do with them, which is find an advantage, push that advantage until the game is over, and GG.
No, I'm in complete agreement. I think G2 looked really good coming off the back of out of Berlin. In their side of the bracket, I'm trying to remember as well, they ran into Gambit. On the one side.
Yeah, and then you got 13-0 to them. Yeah.
I mean, that's when you just run into the fucking scrimbit. Good luck. But ultimately, I definitely felt very good about G2 as they were moving. They just seemed to be making pretty good improvements all around. So I'm all aboard that. Are you going to try and sell me an upset, Wyatt, with this G2 Oxygen game?
No.
Okay. Well, G2. We've got it.
I don't. I just. Yeah.
I like how you prompted that exact same question to Balla,
Yeah.
and then I just sent it right back at you again.
Yeah.
And we're just rehashing the exact same prompts.
I'll sell you an upset for like 50 cents.
So, Bren, do you think there's any chance for an upset?
No.
With Oxygen? Okay.
No chance.
The next game, though, is it even an upset if I think Liquid are going to win?
You're on some mighty crack, bro.
Because
you think Liquid are going to win?
I'm going with Liquid. I'm going with Liquid all the way. I'm
all
gambling.
The way.
Yep.
Woo!
I'm sorry. No one tell my wife, but I'm betting it all on Liquid. I'm taking this risk. Okay. I'm going all in.
I think that I expect Liquid to win in their first round of matches here, but I don't expect them to make against SMB, assuming SMB are playing with online form and with Liquid trying to introduce a new player.
When we talk about the SMB online form, I think they were on. This is the problem. I think they were on a dumb heater on their qualifying run, and then at LAN they had super LAN nerves until the first couple maps, the first 2 maps against Ascend in that series were more competent, and then even on Split it reverted to there was chaos at the end of that game. From both teams, honestly, you could see that they were nervous and overheating, and it was very evident that the LAN nerves were back. So they had a couple decent maps, but I don't think that I don't think we're gonna see either SMB. We're gonna see somewhere between. I think it's unrealistic to think that they're gonna be as nervous. They're not gonna have the land nerves. It's not gonna be like that. But I think it's also unlikely that they're gonna be on such a crazy heater that they were on previously, where it was just they're just stomping G2. Turco can't miss. Izzy can't miss. Paro just decides, okay, this is the map where I get 30 kills on Killjoy walking around the map. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen again. And if it does, that would be amazing, but it's so hard to replicate that level of individual form, no matter how good you are. I don't
anticipate the heater run.
Which is why I think that SMB's standard I think we're going to see like a regular good SMB, but I think regular SMB against regular Liquid with Nivera, I'm gonna go with regular Liquid in this situation.
The only thing that doesn't sound me on this is the idea that teams remain at a relative constant moving forwards from one point to the next. And I think SMB have the massive advantage of playing in the international tournament, learning where the mistakes were. If it was mentality or whatever, that's a little bit harder to fix. But in general, I would expect them to make improvements after the amount of losses that they had with competition. Liquid are introducing a new player into this roster, and you can have the honeymoon phase, but in reality, the reality that I think we're going to be living in is where Liquid don't end up looking as strong necessarily early on. They might look better with more games that they play, but I think SMB should be the favorites in this match here. I don't know if you want to be the tiebreaker now, Balla. You want to split us apart like fighting toddlers.
So much power.
Yeah.
So much power. I think Wyatt sold me. I think I'm fucking
Wyatt sold you on? I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Please don't tell my wife. I'm not going all in. This is bullshit. This bullshit that they're going all in and
I really do.
You want to just go all the way with a Liquid narrative?
You guys can be the reasonable Randys and say that G2 are going to win. But I genuinely think Liquid are going to do it. I think that they were so close in that qualifier. I think if they didn't run into Gambit, they might have made it. And again, I really, really believe that if Nivera brings 0.02 more KPR to the stats than Cryptics would have, that might be enough. I really think that. I really think that Liquid are going to do it, man.
And I really like the idea that SMB is like was on a heater and whatnot, because when we watched them in the like regional battles, they didn't look that incredible, and then all of a sudden they come out in playoffs and they're just shitting on people. That to me indicates exactly what you're talking about, where there should be a period of time where it's like, this isn't necessary, like they need to figure something else out, and I'm thinking back even more to their LAN performance, and I know like at the beginning of this when we were talking about the guild thing, I was like, yeah, well they started playing pretty decently against Ascend, but what I didn't factor in was Ascend was playing like absolute fucking trash. Like,
they were. Yeah.
It was especially that third map on Split though that was just. That was the oh no, my spaghetti. That was
actual spaghetti.
That got played 100 times.
Carbohydrates on the floor.
Yeah, it was a disaster. Yeah,
it was a disaster.
But that map more than any other map at the tournament illustrated the LAN nerve narrative. Absolutely. Where it was just it was a mess because of that.
And I think that like the Ascent's loss of Vision Strikers made them slightly worse in the next game, but then you're like, who actually got, I don't know. So yeah, I fully think that SMB might come out a little colder than they were in the previous playoffs, in the previous online tournament, and maybe the online Turkish magic isn't actually a reality. This will be when that gets tested, right here in this game.
Yeah. I've already said my point. I'm not going to keep hitting it home. You want to go to the the lower round matches before we go to the upper final?
Sure. We can run through them. First round, Footballers
over Anubis Gaming, I think, is a bit of a no-brainer here.
Guild One Breath is actually close. And why are you giving me that face, Ball? Why did you give me the...
I just like giving you that face, bro. Continue with your point, man. I'm just trying to throw you off a little bit.
I think that's kind of close. I think that, obviously One Breath is, they've had the massive roster change and it's kind of Forza, but I do think that's a pretty close game because I think even if Guild, I think even if Guild come in and they've changed a lot, I could see that even being potentially more awkward than if they just ran their off-meta Guild stuff that they're more comfortable with. Like if they try and do some shift where someone is playing Jett and they look really uncomfortable on it and they're trying to play around that and suddenly they're trying to play more of the meta agents and they have Jett, Sky, Astra, but they're
Safe who
fumbling.
plays Jett for them, switching it around the roles.
Yeah, he was at some points.
Safe.
Yassine was at some points, but they just don't have a dedicated Jett player. I mean, Yassine was just like Raze only for forever, and so I could even see a situation where they do that and it doesn't work because they're just not as experienced on those agents as other players, both individually and as a team, how to play off of each other. And if they don't have enough time to work on it, I could see that being a fumble. And I could also see them just sticking with the same stuff that they've been doing, or rather, not literally the same, but like a similar approach to the game. And it just falling flat as it always does because it is a kind of flat, static approach. I think that this is like damn near a coin flip. Maybe that's too crazy, but
okay, now my eyebrows are actually fucking raising.
A coin flip might be an exaggeration, but like 60-40 for Guild.
Yeah.
62-38 for Guild. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Points. The 2%.
Yeah, but genuinely, I think it's like around that. So coin flip is a little bit of an exaggeration, but I don't think this is this isn't the craziest upset of the tournament when One Breath beat Guild. It's not insane.
Yeah. I think a lot of people will treat it that way if it happens because they're like, who the fuck is One Breath Gaming? But that's because nobody watches CIS, so I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, not even the CIS player. People watch CIS.
The region's struggling a little bit.
I almost want to just give it to One Breath. I'm going to be honest.
Just go out in 2.
Yeah. But
come on,
Guild,
Bren,
I'm sorry. I don't.
With your brethren. You don't believe in the Beckham buff, Bren?
We'll give it to Guild, but I just would not be shocked if they do just get knocked out here.
Yeah.
It would not shock me, but we can give it to Guild. I'll give it to Guild over one. I mean, they are the favorite, so sure.
I think Guild.
Give it to Guild, but if they get knocked out, you heard it here first. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. SMB footballers.
I mean, SMB should be able to dispatch of their
footballists have fallen off in
regional
recent times.
Enemy.
I think that is, yeah.
There might be
Oxygen.
destruction.
This is where I'm going with Oxygen, though. Oxygen are going to beat Guild again. They've done it before. They're going to do it again. Yep.
Okay.
Guild are a lower round 2 type knocked out team. This is right about where they go out of every tournament. They've lost to Oxygen before around this time in a tournament. I mean, it was in a group stage, but about the same amount of teams remaining. They get knocked out by Oxygen. It's gonna. So I'm giving it to Oxygen there. You know
Wyatt is taking over the bracket.
Yeah, he actually is. He's just taking control of the lower bracket.
Come on, you guys are gonna go. You going footballist?
I was gonna propose an argument here that teams that play within their own region, that scrim a lot against each other, tend to have better performances, and so it won't be as one-sided as we might be expecting with footballers falling off. With that being said, I still think SMB will be the favorites. But I was just proposing that it might be a closer game than most people imagine.
True. But also,
Balla looks perplexed.
Who the fuck knows what team is showing up for footballers? This could be footballers too. Like,
yeah, it's going to be.
It's an actual
they're going to field 6 players. They're going to get the 6-man advantage.
Yeah.
I think SMB, it has to
next game. Next game. It's SMB. Oxygen Guild.
As much as I would like Guild to go far, the Beckham buff that you were saying, this is right around where they started to peter out. They have never had what it takes to really make it that deep. Since
this is right about
beginning.
where also if they bring some new shit to the table, if they bring out the Yoru again, or they've got the new Breach KO type crazy comp and it works,
Not again.
then it'll stop working here because they'll keep doing the same things and the teams just watched the tape from yesterday, and they're like, oh, I was like, it's round 4, they're doing this again. Like that's about when that happens too. I'm giving this to Oxygen, and Oxygen beat them before.
Yeah,
in a big tournament.
Balla, I'll let you decide.
A long time ago. Like,
yes,
a long time ago.
I know that was a long time ago, but you know what? History. If you don't pay attention to history, it's gonna repeat itself. You know what I'm? You know that? You ever hear that?
If you don't pay attention to history, you are going to repeat yourself. Yeah. True.
Yeah, you guys know that famous quote.
I'm not on board with this famous quote. I'm not on board. Guild.
You're giving it to Guild.
Giving it to Guild.
There's no way Guild make it all.
This is if there was ever a time for Guild to come alive, it would have to be now. If there was ever a time for a comeback, it would have to be now.
Yeah, you could say that for all of these teams, but some of these teams have exited the crypt before. Guild have never done it. They've always been dead.
Yeah.
So it's just. But sure.
I don't actually think that's true though. I think that Guild is not like, yeah, they might have exited last time in this position, which is what, 6th, 7th, right? But for the most part, they're actually semifinals team. For the most part, in all the different qualifiers, and outside of maybe the Iceland playoffs, they have been there in the semifinals for a lot of the major EU tournaments. So I don't know what that
for a lot of the qualifying stages,
they lost
though.
to what? They lost to Giants.
Yeah,
2-1, right?
It was a very close
that's how
match.
they went out.
Very close match.
Yeah,
it was a close match. It was a shambles match. That's for sure. I'm vividly remembering David P lurking millions of times and just like then whiffing, and then the other team whiffing too, and just being really, really bad. But I just Guild is not a weak team. Like, and if we're thinking that way, then I don't know where we're getting that idea.
No, I don't think they're a weak team at all. I just don't have any faith in them to be a great team and make a deep run in a big tournament like this.
Yeah, and I think my point is that this is not like, if they beat Oxygen, this is not they're not all of a sudden becoming a great team. I think that they're just beating Oxygen.
That is, that is very fair. Yes, I guess it's like I don't know, like looking at them in this bracket, I'm just one of these games. I'm just waiting for the moment where it's like, oh well, this is the time where Guild have nothing left in the tank and they get knocked out.
Yeah, like an FPX moment where we're just like, this is done, right?
Yeah.
And that could still happen. They could look like ass and still win this game. Is basically where I'm.
That's possible. Yeah, that's possible.
I understand your overall point though, Wyatt. Just I think Guild looking like they play. They're in the past a little bit with a lot of their picks, and the limitations of their compositions in terms of the way that they're chopping and changing a lot of roles as well they
needed Fracture.
Ideal.
If Fracture was in the pool, I'd be. Why it would be completely wrong? Because then they could pull out the Yoru. And
I'd be putting him to win if Fracture was in. They got the Drac and Yoru. They're taking all the
pressure on my shoulders. By the way, the Beckham buff. I don't know if you remember, but
just go with Guild. It's fine.
I'm going with Guild.
Just go with Guild. I'm going with Guild. I'm not mad at that either. Guild might be the favorite in all these games. It's just, I just don't have. Guild. I don't have faith in the deep Guild run, but it's fine it's very reasonable to pick them to win these games because they're probably the favorite on paper in all of them.
Upper finals.
Well, until now. But.
Are you still thinking here? Why I'm starting with you here, just because
I'm going with Liquid. I already said
I'm going all the way.
We know his answer.
I'm going with Liquid the whole way. You guys can both go G2.
Okay. Vikings Memento.
You can both go with G2. I understand why. Oh, we just saw them at LAN. Yeah. They played all the games. They beat Sentinels. You know what I mean? Then they beat Sentinels. Crew. Kellogg's was looking better than ever. The integration with him into the team.
Yeah, it was good.
Nookie looking good. But let me tell you about the preparation they had for the opponents. Excellent prep. The coaches, the analysts, the staff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. All of that. All very reasonable. But I'm going with Liquid. and now both of you can go with G2, and that's fine, right?
Balla, yeah. Are you actually going to? Do you want me to say my answer first, so that the suspense is there with your pick as a decider?
No, it's fine. I'm still deciding. Maybe that's
okay,
something. Because I look on this and I look at the match on paper and I all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this isn't like last week I basically shit on G2 for their performance in Berlin, even though it was on paper good, even though they got third, fourth place.
Yeah.
I'm rethinking.
I'll say my piece on this then. I think in the world in which Liquid make it this far anyway, they are already exceeding my overall expectations, and so they would have a competitive game against G2. With that being said, I still expect, because G2 made such radical improvements from how they looked coming into Berlin beforehand in like the play-ins, and how they kind of ended it. Obviously, it wasn't the strongest end towards them as a team. I still think they should be the favorites here as well. I'm still kind of banking on Liquid looking shaky. I don't think there's going to be as much as the honeymoon period as you're thinking with this. As much as the storyline would be amazing for Liquid.
I don't even think it's honeymoon period, though. I really don't. It's not about a honeymoon period. It's about
the right time.
No, it's
about Liquid magic, bro.
It's about.
Hey, this will be in movie theaters, by the way, somewhere. Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah. No, it's
gonna be movie magic.
It's about. It's not about a honeymoon period where suddenly everything clicks and they hit this new level and then they never get back to it. I think they're right on the cusp of being, on average, at a higher level where they're consistently in that top echelon of EU, qualifying for all the events, placing really highly. I think they're right on the cusp, and if Nevera brings a little bit higher of a level than Cryptics, I think that they're so on the cusp that will take them over the edge. It's not about a honeymoon. It's about if their average level goes up just a little bit, then they've taken both have been planted in that next category, the next tier of team. That's my thought.
You believe that in a system as relatively complex as Liquid, that it should be easy to slot Nevera in for Cryptics, even though
It depends on what they try to do with some of the comps, and it depends on how many agents they want him to play in a short period of time that he can competently play at the top level in EU, right? Because
have you heard what the streets are saying?
What are the streets
about Nevera?
Are you about to make up some shit, or are you serious?
I mean, it's basically made up shit anyways, but there's people on the streets who are looking in at the stats of his ranked play. And he's playing a lot of Sentinels.
Yeah.
A lot of Sentinels, a lot of Cypher, a lot of Killjoy.
That's what I mean, though. I think that the easiest thing, this is why, he comes in, he's playing Sentinel, it's just 1-to-1. Nevera in, Cryptics out. They're running some of the similar, more less I don't know, like complex comps where it's just we have two duelists. We effectively play with good fundamentals and get kills and win out a lot of post plants because of it.
Everything you're saying about them, I think for G2 they play sensible Valorant generally, and they've looked so good with Kellogg's just on fire. On fire.
Yeah, Kellogg's buff. I'm going with you too. I just remembered it's the Kellogg's buff. It's over. The game is over already.
Balla, you ought to decide and vote for this one.
Yeah, no, you sold me. Kellogg's buff.
Yeah.
But Kellogg's buff, I'm still going with my Link magic.
Okay. You can keep your Link magic.
I
also have a bit of hope for just the UK scene in general. I always like
fine.
to see.
I know we're going with G2, and it's fine.
I see what you're doing.
Well,
when Liquid eventually win,
I
go to champs.
Cryptics.
I'll be at Champions in my Liquid jersey, cheering from the rafters.
This is getting clipped and posted to the socials.
I'll be screaming and chanted with my Sliggy sign. Okay, and it's fine. Fine.
All right, let's close it out.
There's another pair. Like, if you want to say however many other universes there are, however many other Plat Chat episode 63s we're recording,
Yep.
on some number of them, I'm predicting G2 to win because it's very reasonable.
Sure.
But in this one, right here, on this Plat Chat episode that we're doing, that the people are watching, I'm going with Liquid. But we can go with G2. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's close out this bracket, man. You've been huffing. I mean, I want what you're huffing. I want to be on Liquid as strongly, but I'm going with what my eyes have seen, which is G2 looking pretty improved, I thought, from that point. What the
I just
lower
can't
bracket?
wait until we predict the grand final, and Wyatt gets to tell us again that if Nevera brings just 0.2 KD more,
I'm telling you, I'm looking up Cryptic's stats. I'm not. You guys can keep doing it. I'm looking up his stats.
Okay, SMB guild. This is where I see the guild falling off. If SMB have made, I mean, to be fair,
okay, hold on, hold the phone, dude. In the past 60 days, the Cryptic's KPR on Cypher is 0.59. It's 0.64 on Sova, and 0.51 on Viper. I'm telling you, if Nevera comes in and gets like a 0.69 KD or KPR,
to argue against this point real quick, I think with Sentinel play, it's less about the statistics and more about finding high impact kills with intelligent timing and game sense. And if he's coming into the game to fulfill that role, I don't know. It's risky.
That's still, you can do that, but also still be getting more kills. And Cryptic's did do that. Like, Cryptic's was a good player, and he did have a lot of impactful rounds. And he was another one of the guys that, in a lot of those close games, was having clutch late round moments. He was doing that. But if also, on average, there's a higher output of kills coming in because Nevera brings a higher level of firepower.
Just that bit of extra firepower.
I'm telling you. I'm taking this theory to the bank. But it's fine.
Supermassive Blaze versus Guild is the match we're on.
I'm just saying. I had to check the stats.
Yep. I like
what's Nevera's KPR on Tracker GG? Kurt, pull up the Tracker GG. What's he putting up in ranked?
SMB is the team who I'm anticipating here. This is where Guild drop off in the end. I think the stuff that we've been criticizing them for, they're a little bit behind in terms of switching up the roles. I think they're a little bit behind in terms as well of like comfort picks they'd like to play on. I think Breach is usable in instances where teams have found success with it is like, I think of teams like Vision Strikers where they go all in heavy short-term burst area control and they play around comps with that. Guild don't do that. They don't play it in that manner. So, or at least they do, but they don't really facilitate it. They don't overlap the strengths of their comps when they play it. So I think, SMB are favored in this match here. If we even get to this point again, we are so deep in the weeds here with these Preds. By the way, on your previous Preds of the brackets, do we have like the previous pick-ems to see how correct we were?
We never really go back.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I mean, we just, we don't. I mean, it's impossible.
You take a little break and you come back swinging at it.
Shit talking all of it. Yeah. I didn't mean that in a bad way. I just mean, listen, you gotta.
No, it's just not like, it's not that interesting. It's not like good content. It's just.
Go back. Let's see.
No. Listen,
I want to know.
Let's get this out of the way. And then we can check it afterwards. Balla, what are you expecting here with SMB Guild? Are you sharing my sentiments with Guild falling off here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything that Wyatt said about Guild now, I agree with now.
I go with SMB again.
I think SMB has that extra oomph that Oxygen has that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And wait, is it a rematch?
Yeah.
Or are we just like losing? Okay, cool. All right,
These are all rematches. I mean, I'm going with Liquid again over SMB.
Interesting.
I mean, I'm going.
Yeah.
I mean, you know where
Liquid,
I'm going.
Yeah. I mean, it would make sense
in
any scenario where you have a rematch. There is an argument to be made that the losing team has more to lose off of that match, but with how quickly these games are played, how much planning can you actually do to adjust from one match to the other? If you had more time, I think, again, it gets more evened up. But yeah, if we're assuming Liquid win the upper round 2, then Liquid probably going to be winning the lower final against SMB.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Theory here. All three of these matches, the upper final, the lower round 3, and the lower final happen on the same day.
Really?
Liquid doesn't have that prep time.
Wait, what?
Wait.
Just looked up the schedule, bro.
3 matches in one day, including the final, which is the only match that matters.
The upper finals, the lower finals, and the grand finals.
Correct.
Oh my god.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's just so many games.
These single broadcast channel days really be hurting.
Bro, what? So you have, that is...
You guys love double elim, don't you, huh? You guys love double elim so much.
Yeah, I know. Well, that is
Oh
just...
my God.
Lower final and grand final on the same day, okay, but the upper, the lower, and the... that is crazy. Isn't the grand final going to be a BO5 too?
No, grand final's not happening on the same day.
Oh, I think
grand final's the day after.
Oh, okay.
It's upper final, lower round 3, and so G2 Liquid, SMB
okay.
Guild, and Liquid SMB. So my point with all this was that Liquid doesn't have the time to prep for that game specifically, which I think is a major strength of Liquid in a lot of cases. Not always why they're winning or anything like that, but I do think it's one of their strengths. I think that's nullified in this, and they also have a cooldown period if they end up losing against G2, where there's a whole 3-hour block where they're not doing shit. Yes, they're watching the game, but that's not really time to prep real stuff. And then they have to come back on and play again, which always fucking sucks. Always sucks. Yeah. It's much better, in my opinion, to just play the 2 games back to back like SMB does.
Yeah, so you're not just cold coming straight into it.
So SMB wins.
They're going with Liquid. Wait, who? Say again, Balla?
Oh, no. SMB.
No.
When you get into the weeds with matches like this as well, I completely agree with what you were saying about your the preparation you can make for a given game.
Not like this.
It's surface level. It's at the beginning. And at that point, beyond that, it comes down to form. It comes down to the adaptations at the time, the pressure and how you perform under it. And...
Kill him.
Like this.
Kurt is groaning. We need to get past this segment.
Cut to the chase, Bren.
Yeah, he's dying in there. I'll believe in you, Wyatt. I'll go with the Liquid pick.
Oh, no. Okay.
I'll believe in you,
Why?
Wyatt.
Just because I'm not there in person? You're just not stopping. Come on,
we can go with G2 again in the final, even though I'm going Liquid. But go G2 again in the final. Let's move on.
I think, I'm hearing all sorts of noises.
They're all the way here. Fucking Liquid Magic. Let's go. Liquid Magic.
You want to go all the way with Liquid? The odds of this being the final.
Kurt, just pick and we're moving on.
Yeah. There we go.
There it is.
Liquid win. Okay.
Even though they're taking through the
We're moving on. Yeah. Hearing all sorts of noises from the production den. Just, This was chaos incarnate with this bracket. The next one, we still don't have the NA LCQ bracket. I just checked, unless they literally just updated it within the last minute. I don't think they would have.
No.
So I think in general,
we'll talk general prediction.
We'll just do general preds, and we'll talk about. I think the way we do it is we talk
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, I think so. Actually,
okay.
I think that's a good way of doing it. Just roughly running through it, and then we'll talk about our number 1 pick and expectations, and our number 2, and then going straight down onto the list. If we take a look at the teams. This will be much quicker than trying to go for an entire bracket.
Kind of nice. It's gonna be the first time EU gets more airtime than NA in terms of bracket pick'ems. Usually EU's fuck it, nobody gives a shit.
So this number 1 seed, I think, coming in, or your number 1 expectation for who was going to win the whole thing. For me, I have a pretty clear answer.
There it is.
Did you say FaZe?
Yep.
I have a pretty good expectation in my mind of which team I think is going to be the favorites coming into this one. And I have Xset as my number 1 pick because I think 100 Thieves have, with Steel gone in such short amount of notice, with Boy coming in. Yes, Nitro, I think, is going to be the IGL over this given time. They would be the only other team that's really contending for that top spot. But I think, in all likelihood, Xset have shown the most consistent development over time, the highest peaks as well, with wins against some very top teams in prior games. And I think they're probably going to be feeling pretty good in terms of their form moving forward. There's always a chance that 100 Thieves come alive with LAN buff, I guess. But when you're introducing Boy, who I don't think has played a professional game, like an official match, in 4 months, I think.
Sure.
I think the last time he played was like in April.
That. Yeah.
Yep.
I just don't think there's a solid enough argument that they would be the favorite. So Exit is the number 1 pick for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna still go with 100 Thieves. Even with Boy coming in.
Yeah.
Given what I have seen from them in Berlin in regards to composure, and then also I think against this field, Asuna is going to be way more of a dominant factor than he was at Berlin, and getting that experience should be good for this. And this is a more comfortable situation for him to probably be playing in than even Berlin, playing against teams that scrimmed against a million times, played in matches against a million times. I mean, dominated a bunch of these teams over and over. I think that he'll be more comfortable and probably have a much better tournament than he did at Berlin. And he was still good at Berlin. He just wasn't, dominant NA Asuna form. So I think that's a factor. Ethan and Nitro were some of the best players in Berlin, period. And I think against this field, they're going to be a step above. I still have faith in 100 Thieves here. And I think Boy will be fine. I don't think he'll have a poor tournament. I don't think he'll be amazing, but he's a good player. He was an intelligent player on Nbox. I think he'll be fine.
If Boy can just get 0.2 KPR.
No, he could get 0.2 KPR less than Steel. He doesn't even need to get as many KPRs as Steel in this tournament, because Austin is probably going to get like a full 0.1 KPR higher than he was in Berlin, so it doesn't even matter.
True. Yeah, I think 100 Thieves is my favorite as well. And when you talk about like Xset's peak, I actually think that 100 Thieves is the team with the highest peak, but also slightly highest variance in the fact that they will start a game cold and then, whatever, they'll lose a map pretty tragically or whatnot. That happens in NA too, right? But they have the most resilience out of any of these teams. Maybe losing Steel actually hurts that, but I don't think so. I think maybe slightly, but even then it's still like they should have the most fighting spirit out of any of these teams. And if they come out swinging and all, yeah, I just think that all, like Wyatt said, all these players on their team are super, 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 super good, and probably some of the best players in this event just in general, right? Yeah. We haven't seen Xset in a while, and like they might have gotten some good wins, like over Envy and Sentinels back way back when. Yeah. But it really depends on the amount of time. Like it's hard to bet on Xset because we haven't watched them in so long that even though their last time was good, you really don't know whether that was IGL honeymoon or whatever. I don't know what is going to come from that more. So yeah, it feels really hard for me to bet on Xset as a favorite.
Yeah.
So
plus they've never really proved that they can win a tournament, which is what's necessary here.
Right.
Out of all these teams, the only team that to me has proved that they can win a tournament is 100 Thieves and FaZe, surprisingly.
Yeah. I agree with that sentiment. I think FaZe are definitely going to be a dark horse team here.
Yeah. Are we? I was just going to say, are we? So essentially, are we just going to be flipped in terms of our preds for 1 and 2 here? Do we expect? So for me, it's 100 Thieves is like the second favorites coming in.
Yeah, I mean,
you
for
guys
me, second,
or?
it's probably Xset. I mean, I think that at that point, though, I think there's a lot of argument to be made for other teams that I think it's going to be pretty close. I think depending on Rise's level at this point and how comfortable they look on LAN, I think they have a chance at making it really deep. They were really impressive in the last qualifier, and I rate some of their players really high. The new Cloud9 roster is definitely one to keep an eye on. I'm still waiting to see like the Zeppa that was promised, that people keep hyping up, and if he hits that level or is closer to that level, given another couple months of playing under Vanity, I think they have a real shot. And also, I mean, Leaf is definitely one of the top players in NA. They have a really stacked roster. Vanity IGL having more time with the team, see where they're at, what they've been able to work on. I think that's Cloud9 have a chance of making it really deep.
You think it's this competitive at number 2?
Yeah.
For who can take it?
Yeah, I do. And I think a lot can change on LAN, which is where I think the phase LAN buff is probably going to be real to some extent. And I think the only teams that are kind of more. I think the only teams that I feel right now might be a little bit outside of that are, well, honestly, even version 1, they were great on LAN. They had a lot of poise and composure on LAN, playing with the sub. They don't have Vanity anymore, so it'll be interesting to see where they're at due to that.
They don't have a fifth, bro.
Well, I mean, they have Odorous. They just won't announce him. But
true.
So I think that'll be interesting. Maybe they'll be able to pull something through. I feel like, I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence in LG necessarily right now to make it that deep that they would somehow come in second.
Yeah.
And I think Gen.G are an interesting one.
They are an interesting team.
I think. I mean, I am a huge fan of Temperature. I think he's really good, and I think that was an excellent pickup that is just flying under the radar. He was rolling on EG. He was by far their best player on the Sova. And swapping him in for Mikhail, I think that's a huge pickup. I think that was really flying under the radar, and I think that Gen.G are probably going to look really strong. I think they're like my other dark horse team in this. It's just that it seems every time Gen.G enter one of these tournaments, as of late, it's like they have an excellent open, and then they look really good, and then they just slowly fizzle out, and they never realize the
Some
the
things never change.
But yeah, and it always happens over and over. But then at what point is it like, okay, we've made enough roster moves that like
I'm talking about your faith in Gen.G.
Well,
way back in the day.
Well, yeah, it's because they always look good, and then they aside from that one time where they made like top 3 at the top of the year in the first Masters, they have consistently looked really good, made it kind of deep, and then they fizzle out. And at some point, it's like how many roster moves does it take for that to not really be a thing anymore? And picking up Temperature is a great move.
They also added Elma Putty as coach as well, right? Who is like a really, really good coach from CS.
I don't know.
Yeah. So
Elma Putty, he's really
I think
good.
the field is really strong, and I think that like especially the top 4 is going to be really open.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of good competitors for the top 2 as well. Though, I do have XSET as like I have XSET as number 2. It's just
you think it's a lot.
I think it's
you don't
really
think
close.
That much of a gap. But do you agree this with the number 2 pick in terms of? Do you think it's relatively wide open?
Yeah, it should be. It should be. Well, I think it's slightly less wide open than Wyatt's making it out to be, but I do think that a lot of these teams are like right at the heels of second place. But I still think there's a slight gap between XSET and them. And that's to say I have no clue how Cloud9 is going to look. They won the Nerd Street, like the one tournament that they played, the summer championship or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But since then, obviously not seen, and everybody else also unseen since playoffs. So the one thing I will say is I have a little bit more faith in FaZe than others as well, simply because I was very impressed with how they led up to the playoffs last time around. But when it came to playoffs, it was definitely a different story. I hope that because this is just a Raw, you're going into the tournament, that's it. It should be better for them to keep that consistency the entire time. So I think they can make a deep run. So I would honestly have them and Gen.G like fighting for that third place.
Interesting. See, for me, I have my exit pick at number 1. My number 2 is 100 Thieves, and I think there's a bit of a gap then between 2 and 3 actually, in terms of what team is going to be taking that third place spot, with the opportunity for one of those teams to really show up. And I'm expecting. I was actually pretty impressed with Cloud9 Blue in the most recent match when they played that tournament, with Vanity coming in. I was very impressed with Rise as well. My expectations for Rise were particularly low. And I completely agree with your sentiment, Wyatt, talking about Gen.G, with Temperature coming in, and that just being a general upgrade with Mikhail. With FaZe Clan, funnily enough, I don't know, I'm pretty close with a lot of those guys, but we keep talking about this, the LAN buff, the LAN buff.
The LAN buff.
And Yes, these guys do.
I asked these guys last time, and they were really high. Both Josh and Wyatt and Avast. You guys were really high on the phase land buff idea.
Yeah, and it's not even necessarily land. It is maybe land buff to some extent, but it's also like they won't hit the land debuff. They won't. There won't be any. There's no question in my mind that we're not gonna see like a worse phase than what we saw online at LAN, where other teams could drop
none
off.
of these teams will have a land debuff. Not a single one of them. If any, I think it's X set.
Yeah.
But even then, there's no shot. No shot for like.
With FaZe Clan, I think they've played on LAN before. A lot of these guys come from the Overwatch League, where they've had regular time playing on a big stage. But I think it's a little bit different when you're heading into a tournament where everything is on the line. A lot of these guys have played matches.
At the Microsoft Store.
They've played matches on a regular weekly basis, but the stakes were set much lower than they are this time around. And when I was watching them, they're a team that they essentially rely so much on Baby and Corey to just open up an area of the map, and there's not much nuance to the way that they play. It's very simple, and it's a bit of a double-edged sword in that they don't really care for what the enemy team are doing and trying to play around it as much. They tend to come up with a game plan at the start of the round, and they send in Baby and Corey, and they do crazy shit, and Baby's chucking guns away to the enemy team, doing 360s with the knives, he's wasting his ultimates, and they just do their own thing. And I think that playstyle it's all confidence-based. They're going to be confident on LAN, which would imply that they would be more confident. But at the same time as well, when you're playing online and you're swinging people and you're playing on ping, there's a slight advantage there. If you can hold shallower angles, you can hold corners more when you're playing on 0 ping. And teams, I think, will be able to shut them down a little bit more, which is why I'm anticipating, actually, maybe they might not be as high up as some people think. I think there's definitely chances of them going on an absolute tear. But I think with how the rest of the competitions looked, number 3 for me is currently it's between Rise, Gen.G, and Cloud9. And I think I'm leaning towards Cloud9. Cloud9 blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reasonable. But yeah, I think it'll be pretty interesting in regards to the top 4. But
like working backwards, is LG the worst team here?
No, I actually think it might end up being version 1, weirdly enough. In a weird turn of events, because when I was watching version 1's gameplay, unfortunately we don't have anything with Odorous in, so we don't really know how that's going to be working. But it was really funny because I watched Cloud9's recent match first, and then I was watching version 1 at the end of the day yesterday, and I was like, well, I've seen all these set plays before. What's going on? And I was like, oh yeah, it's because Vanity's playing for Cloud9 Blue now. Like a lot of their set plays, they're just being reused in Cloud9 Blue. And I think it was adding a lot of depth to version 1. And I don't know how much of that is going to be missing. I think, is it Effie's who's going to be IGLing for them now?
I think so.
I think it might be Effie's who's going to be IGLing. And I think they might end up looking weaker as much as Odorous is a good player. I think at the end of the day, it's a bit of a toss-up between them and LG, because LG as well, I think, were a bit stuck in the past, a lot of their compositions when I was watching them. They seem a bit behind in terms of the meta, and they still... It was very intriguing watching them and comparing them to the LG that existed when they were dominant around the same time as FaZe with their contact plays and how they still do that. But it just, it's... I don't have as high expectations for them at the end of the day. But yeah, it's going to be a really interesting tournament, I think. There's a high likelihood that a team comes alive that none of us are really expecting and ends up being a real competitor at the top level.
Yeah. I'll just still... Yeah, they could do it. You never know when Dre just decides to drop 30.
I think one thing with, it's obviously Dre, but the last time they played, they brought back in Moose for Ben, and Moose was obviously like a big part of that team. So maybe he was a little slow to start because he definitely had probably the worst event that I've seen him have. But now that he's back for quite some time, now that he's able to grind again because his hand's not broken, maybe there could be something to be said about this team like not being as bad as we think they will be.
Oh, for sure. No, there's absolutely a world where I think some of these teams as well. I could see version 1 having a deeper run of things than LG in all likelihood, but I just think with what I've seen with Vanity and the improvements they've been making with that Cloud9 Blue squad, they I think the version 1 definitely going to be hurting, I think, a little bit from Vanity being gone in general. But I am absolutely stoked for NA LCQ. I think this tournament is going to be sick. Hopefully we get double elim as well with the format change. We have
full on.
Yeah, hopefully it's just full on double elim as well, so we get a multitude of matches.
Yeah.
But we can move on as well, unless you guys want to add anything else about the tail end of these teams.
I'm all good.
All good.
Okay, just waiting on that. All good.
The next topic is what happens after LCQ, and I assume with this topic as well, we're just generating a tiny little discussion about the rosters that might get blown up, the mix, the big off-season shakeup, because it's the last chance for these guys to get in champs, which is what everyone's playing for. And yeah, we are going to see big mix-ups. I anticipate with teams having a lot of success. So like 100 Thieves already making mix-ups before champs was really shocking to me. You guys already discussed it previously, but I kind of respect it in a way, because the way that they're probably looking at it is like, well, we feel like we're not going to win champs in our current state. We've got to make changes. We might as well make them now, even if we don't make champs, which I respect a lot. But I anticipate a lot of these teams who look pretty strong to not make as many big roster blow-ups. They're not just going to chop and change tons of players. But I think when you look at like the bottom section of NA teams, or just in general the teams in every region, you're going to see big changes where you're going to see the mix and match, and eventually it's going to settle into some new real dominant teams. This is always one of the more exciting parts of like any esports timeline in a season, is when you see the roster mix-ups.
Yeah, I think I mean, the other question is, is there going to be any, where's the content? Where are the tournaments? Are there going to be any third-party tournaments? Will there be any opportunities to see these teams in the next 3 months? Or are we just, I'm going to be waiting until 2022 to see Wardell? Just, you know what I mean? That is one of the other questions, right? Or because would be unfortunate if this is kind of just the end of the Valorant year. I mean, we're waiting for champions, and then after champions,
big break.
There's just nothing again until 2022. So it's not. Yeah. So I'm interested to see if there's going to be third-party tournaments. It is scary.
For like every single region, there's like 3 teams, and then everybody, like, if you're an NA fan, that's it. You get those 3 teams, and that's the only teams that you're following. And EU is even worse, right? Because you have the Turkish fans, you have the actual EU fans, and then you don't have any CIS fans. But like, it's rough. And the scary part for me is not only do we not have tournaments, but we will see these blowups. We're already hearing rumblings of, major team blowups, and some major players coming over and stuff like that, which I think that would be very exciting. For example, the rush to TSM like rumor that's going around from CS. That could be very exciting. But what I'm scared of is a team like, let's say fucking one of the teams who doesn't make it, like XSET, for example. XSET's not going to blow up. Who the fuck, LG, for example, any of these TSM, Ambox, like so many of these names just blowing up completely. And then we come back into VCT 2022 and we have no context on these teams anymore because they're just completely new. That would hurt so bad the way that this year went, which was consistent storyline development, consistent narratives that you can follow. And if we have completely new teams, all of a sudden, all the history is thrown out the window completely. You don't even have the same cores in some of these cases. So that's the scary part, is that we don't have any transfer or any incentive for these guys to actually try to stick together for the next year either, right? It's not like they're holding on to a slot or anything like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit of a worry. I wonder if the onus, I think, there is on Riot as well, because it's all well and good waiting for third-party tournament organizers to run events in the meantime, but I think if they don't, Riot are incentivized to create something, to make something happen, even if it's just online tournaments in every region, just to keep it going, just to give the team something to play for.
And it doesn't need to be a lot, like just one or two, something 25K, 50K type level Ignition series, like one weekend tournament,
keep the Fire series, like, I don't know, some other name than Ignition.
But just something small like that. That
we need a vast back.
We need
the analogies.
We need, because there needs to be, at least to the level that it would incentivize like TSM or these teams from LCQ, the top teams that aren't, if they don't make it, like if XSET doesn't make it or 100 Thieves doesn't make it, or teams of that caliber, that it would incentivize them to play. Because those are really those are the teams we want to watch the most. At the end of the day, you want to see the best team. So it needs to be of some...
Wardell.
Yeah, the tournaments need to have some,
stream.
Some either a good price tag or some something to it to incentivize the players.
Yeah.
It can't just be fucking Nations Cup like they're doing in EU, the Blast Premier thing.
Oh,
just
yeah.
Can't be that.
Teams,
Can't be that.
I
I
don't
like that,
that,
but I don't like that.
Yeah, there's no narratives that you're carrying from that really at all. It seems like a bit of a weird one.
And to have Blast run a Nations Cup, bro, it's just like, oh, come on, man. It could be such better things that Blast could be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really could. Hopefully there is stuff on the horizon, because it will be detrimental to the scene as a whole. We're going to wrap this up soon, so we're going to end it with the most important topic of all, the most final point.
Okay.
It's Wyatt's Weekly Award.
Okay.
We've seen this trophy before. Wyatt's Weekly Award. But who's getting it this time?
There it is. There he is. It's been a while since you've seen one of those live, huh?
It does tickle me, man. I don't know. It does tickle me.
Yeah.
Who is the weekly award going to this time around?
This week, the weekly award recipient is going to our very own Curtis.
Curtis?
Yep. This
Let's
is the first. Yep. This is the first inner Plat chat. Is this like, I don't know, is this like the nepotism Wyatt's Weekly Award?
That's okay. I do it all the time on the Overwatch show.
Yeah. Oh, do you?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Hand it to my friends all the time.
Yeah, I'm just giving it to Curtis this week because we've just had an immense amount of shit that's been needed to be done in the past month and a half.
It's been nonstop.
And Curtis has been on his Sigma grind set behind the scenes, keeping the ship afloat,
well deserved.
plugging holes
on the fucking hamster wheel.
So that's just
I mean, it's
genuinely running on the hamster wheel. So
it is crazy the amount of work that has just been non-stop, one after the other. So well deserved award.
Thank you. Oh, also that's also why this episode's been like crap together. Why Josh is gone. Everything's been happening. We actually just ran a charity event, and now we're heading to LA in a few days.
Yep.
So we might be missing next week, I imagine.
Yes. Yeah, but we'll we might even be live with LCQ at that point.
We'll be live,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's true.
Yeah, you'll just be seeing there won't be, no episode because you're just going to be watching the stream because we're going to be making an episode for 8 hours.
Exactly.
5 days.
In case you're living under a rock as well and you missed the announcement, we are going to be live at NALCQ doing the co-stream, the couch stream from the studio. I think we'll have like the teams behind us. It's going to be sick. For NALCQ. So that's why, as Kurt was saying, it's hectic. Josh is figuring out his travel. Avast is traveling as well.
Avast has been
Avast has been non-stop.
He's been non-stop traveling. Yeah, it's been a very busy
and it doesn't
month
stop.
for all involved.
It doesn't stop.
Yep.
So we pumped out the episode. We got it together in the end. Make sure you follow our socials. Make sure you subscribe as well. Follow the Twitter on Plat Chat Podcast. Stay tuned for the co-stream as well. We got some very cool things cooked up on the horizon. And I think I'll close this one out. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you hit the bell thingy as well. I think all the YouTubers say that. The notification bell. Yeah, get the notifications up as well. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you on the NALCQ, actually. That's the next time we'll be seeing. See you then.